Let's bring in Sophia Nelson, author of E Pluribus One, Reclaiming Our Founders' Vision for United America, and Jonathan Alter, MSNBC political analyst and columnist for the Daily Beast. Big welcome to you both. Jonathan, I want to reach out to you first here. Were this, the facets of the president's personality, was it just not clear enough before the election? I mean, why are all these Trump voters just now turning on him?
Well, first of all, we need to be careful. They're not necessarily turning on him. So the guy you just saw who talked about the moccasins and being obtuse, at the end of that focus group, he still hadn't abandoned Trump. So a lot of these folks, and before the election, we're not talking now about the hardcore Trump supporters, but the Republicans who voted for him, they knew about a lot of his shortcomings, and they voted for him anyway, whether it was because they disliked Hillary Clinton more or had other reasons. So this is not done yet, and there's a big struggle going on in the Republican Party. Even though a lot of these numbers are really bad, these supporters need to have some face-saving way of admitting that they were wrong when they voted for him.
Okay. Certainly the president's support, though, has dipped the very most among groups that won him the White House overall, those being Republican men and white voters without college degrees. So, Sophia, how do you explain that? And how worried do you think the president should be by those numbers?
Well, look, Alex, the president has had a difficult past few weeks post-Charlottesville. Even his voters who are rural, white men, working class, 53% of white women, that group of Americans, everything Jonathan said is right. However, Charlottesville shifted things for them because the majority of Americans, the vast majority of us, reject white supremacy, Nazism, and all of those type of things. And I think he hedged on it, and it hurt him. However, we just saw Air Force One take off for Texas. He has an opportunity today to show that empathetic side. He has an opportunity today to hug some Americans, to talk to Americans, to do what the vice president did yesterday and roll up his sleeves and get engaged and touch people physically and emotionally. And I think if he can reconnect in this tragic devastation in Houston, Texas, and beyond, I think he can set himself back on a better course than the one he's been on for the past few weeks in particular.
Is that the point, Jonathan? I mean, because he is making a second trip, is that because the first one was not a success? Does he have to do exactly what Sophia is saying to turn this whole thing into a success for him personally?
He's not going to be able to fake it. He doesn't have an empathetic bone in his body, and he is germophobic, so he doesn't like to touch people. For many years, he didn't even shake anybody's hand. When I knew him in the 90s, I went and interviewed him. He wouldn't shake my hand. So this is a guy who does not like to hug people. If he does, it's going to be a great picture because it's not going to be a genuine kind of emotional feeling. So, and by the way, even if he did hug people, that's not enough. You know, he's in a deep hole politically. And while, as I said, I don't think it's over for him politically, he's had a series of self-inflicted political wounds. And the problem is the longer you're president, these wounds add up. So, and then even if you get a temporary bump in the polls because of a national crisis or something, you then revert to the mean. And the mean for him is not very good. He's far weaker than any president at this time in his term since the beginning of polling.
Okay, I do want to get to you guys to talk about John Kelly and the situation there in the White House, but give me a grade from each of you. Sophia, you first, on how the president has handled Hurricane Harvey so far and where you think it might go.
Well, he probably gets a B right now in terms of just being on top of it. This certainly was not Katrina for this White House. And I think the fact that he went the first time administratively to kind of hang out with FEMA and talk to people and do that, and he's going back, I think he's going to do better. I hope that for him.
And real quick to you, Jonathan, because I want to get in Kelly.
I'd say a C. I mean, it's great inflation to give him anything.
Okay. So, look, I'm looking at the New York Times article, Forceful Chief of Staff grates on Trump and the feeling is mutual. So, Jonathan, how long can John Kelly stay in that post and be effective if they are already at loggerheads, or is he just destined to fail?
Well, in the New York Times today, the reporting, which is very good, had people speculating inside the White House that he has anywhere from a month to a year. It's obviously not going to be all that long. I would say he'll be gone by the end of this year would be my guess. He said to people inside the White House this week that after he was tongue-lashed by the president, that in his 37 years in public life, he had never been spoken to that like that by anybody. This is a man, Donald Trump, who doesn't truly respect anyone. He will even attack generals, whatever. He's a big baby, and at a certain point, John Kelly's not going to put up with it anymore.
So, Sophia, if Jonathan is prophetic here and by the end of the year he's gone, who's next? Real quick.
Yeah, I don't think Kelly's going to go anywhere anytime soon. Trump can't afford to have another chief of staff that he loses. It's just the optics are bad. He's losing people. I think let's give General Kelly a chance. Yes, he's a general. Generals are divas. We love them, but they tell people what to do. They don't get told what to do. So this was going to be difficult for him.